Good evening, ladies and gentlemen around the world. My name is Wesahana Pearson. I am recording for Black Asian Magazine. Right now, I'm speaking with a woman who I met on Facebook, and she had some very useful, very insightful things to say to me about some of the issues that Black Asian Magazine deals with regularly. So, first, for the site, can you tell us your name?
My name is Joe Bai. I go by Lady J.
Okay. And that's okay. It sounds like it could be kind of a simple name, but I recognize the word "bi." What
hmm
is the meaning of that? How did you get that name?
well, first of all, Bai is my married name from before.
Okay.
I've been married more than once, and one of my marriages was to a Chinese man, and his name was Bai. Last name was Bai, which means white in
Okay.
Chinese. And when we divorced, I already had many things, businesses and passports and everything with this name already on it. And my name is actually hyphenated, my maiden name and my ex-married name. But I kept the name because I was going to go to China.
Okay.
And I figured that it would be easier for people to say my name if I kept the Bai. And Joe Bai kind of goes together. Funny thing, Bai means white by itself.
Mhm.
And if you put Joe Bai, it's like a
Sounds like 900.
900. But if you switch it by Joe, it means white alcohol.
Yeah.
So in China, they switched the names. So I went by Bai Joe, which they thought was quite humorous because it means white wine.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. So now you're going into your background. I'd like you to take a step further, a bit farther back into your background. Can you
hmm
tell us where you grew up? Can you give us a brief portrait of what it was like where you come from?
I grew up in a very small town in Missouri.
Okay.
Um, it's called Sturgeon. We were the only Black family in the entire town. The town had about 900 people. So it wasn't really, I grew up around a bunch of Caucasian people because that's all there were. And I was raised by my grandmother on a farm. So I'm a country girl, I guess, but I hated the country and always dreamed of traveling around the world and doing crazy things like that.
All right. Okay. Now, from growing up in Missouri, moving along further into the present,
hmm
you just told me that you lived in China for a number of years.
16 years.
Wow. Okay. What were you doing when you decided to move to China?
Well, first of all, I decided to move to China in a week. At the beginning, on a Monday, I decided that I wanted to move and go abroad. So I looked up online how I could get to China because it wasn't just hop a plane and you can go to China and stay there. So I looked up ways to go to China and I found a website that said they were accepting teachers, English teachers, no experience necessary. I sent in my resume. They said that I needed a TOEFL certificate.
Okay.
And so I looked up how to get a TOEFL certificate. I found it online. I took it. It said a 6-month program. I did it in a week. They sent the certificate. I sent everything over to the recruiter in China at that time, was in Hangzhou, and she hired me. And then the next Monday, I got on a plane.
Okay. Now, in hindsight, looking back on it, what would you say about this decision that you made? Was it something you're proud of or you regret, or how would you describe it now?
Well, I don't regret anything that I do because everything I do gives me some experience and helps me in the future. Nowadays, now, mind you, that was 16 years ago. Okay, that's not now. So now things are totally different. Okay, they're not just looking for someone that can speak English and then just get a TOEFL certificate and hop on a plane and there you go. No, it's not like that now. Now you have to have a degree. In English or in some related field.
Okay.
like a teaching field. Can be science, can be whatever, but you have to have a degree in it. And if you're native speaking American, which means that you're born here, you're not an immigrant, you are born here, you don't need any kind of experience. But if you immigrated here and English is your second language, then you need to show some proof that you've taught English before.
Okay.
Okay. You also need background checks. You also need your degrees certified. You need your background check certified. You need health checks. I mean, there's a lot of requirements now that were not necessary when I went over there. So it's not so easy to just go in a week anymore. Now it takes some planning, at least several months,
Okay.
if not 6 months or so, to plan to go.
All right. What kind of people would you say are most suited for taking on a position like this? Moving to China, they've probably never been there before, but they have the kind of background that is required. What kind of people would you say should go down that avenue?
People who are very tolerant, okay?
Okay.
People who are very organized.
Okay.
You need to be organized. People who are flexible. You need to be flexible. You may not stay at the school that hired you. They may move you around. You may not just get offered the few classes that you once thought you were going to teach. They may add some or they may take some away. That's how it works over there. It's not like schools in the US. You got to go over with an open mind, and it's very difficult if you are a single parent or you have children. It's very difficult. There is not a after school program or anything like that.
Okay.
You have to you can pay for a nanny, but most people who have students are homeschooled.
Okay. Children are homeschooled.
Hmm.
Okay.
Because or if they go to an international school, it's it's very expensive, very very expensive.
Okay. The first time we spoke, you
Hmm.
briefly touched on the kind of experience you had first with Chinese culture and secondly with the other cultures that you ran into during your
Hmm.
years in China. How was it? What was your experience like being a black woman living there in China? And how did the culture receive you and how did other cultures receive you?
Okay, well, first of all, when I went over, I'll tell you this quick story. When I went over, the school that hired me, the place I thought I was going to be was in Hangzhou. And I had researched Hangzhou, and it was a larger city, multicultural city. I was good with that. But then when I got there, they told me, we're going to send you to another city in Yuyao, which I had never heard of, which was about 2 hours away by car.
Okay.
And they said to me, this school needs a teacher really badly. They don't really want a black teacher, but once they talk to you, they'll be fine. So I was thinking, you're going to send me to a school that doesn't want a black teacher? And
Yeah.
they're like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Now, where does that come from? Because in America, in certain Western countries, most of them, there's always some degree of racism. In Asia, there's racism, but it's its own unique brand of racism. Where does that even come from? The idea that we don't want a black person working here in a place where there's not a history of them dealing with blacks.
Okay, so here's first of all, everything they learn either from TV
Mhm.
or they learn from their personal experience. Now, just like I think a good example would be this. When you are in America and you go to a Mexican restaurant
Right,
or a Chinese restaurant, when you walk in the door, you expect to see Mexican people
right,
or you expect to see some kind of Asian person making your Chinese food, right?
right. Yes.
We just feel it's more authentic because Asian people are making it. It's more authentic. Mexican people are making it, or whatever type of ethnic group that you eat the food. If you want Jamaican food, you want Jamaican people making it, right?
Okay.
In their minds, in their minds, Americans are white, white, blonde hair, white, dark hair, whatever, they're white. okay? Because the only blacks they had ever seen were from Africa.
Okay.
So they figure if you're from America and if it's real English, it must come from white people because in their mind, white people are who Americans are, and they're the ones who speak the best English. Okay. Although we know other people can cook Mexican food, other people can cook Chinese food, and it can be just as good, if not better, we still prefer to see that person behind in the kitchen. It's the same thing in China. They think English is a white person's language
Hmm.
and that they need a white person to teach it. Now, that's not because they don't really like black people. It's just their thinking. It's more authentic if it comes from a white person because they're American, just like English people are white. It's English. You see what I mean?
Yes, I got you.
So in their mind, that's not blatant racism. That's just not knowledgeable about there's other people in America that speak English just as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Stepping a little bit further into the present,
Mm-hmm.
besides teaching, I think you also mentioned that you ran a business. And
I ran two businesses.
oh, excuse me. Okay, you ran two businesses. All right. What was running a business there like? And can you tell me? Can we briefly delve into maybe it's a lot, but some of the ins and outs of doing business there in China, some of the requirements that you had to meet?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a very complicated process, so I'm gonna water it down a lot,
Okay.
okay? Because the first thing you need to do to know in China doing business is you cannot do anything by yourself. You need a Chinese person. You need a dependable Chinese person. You need a Chinese person that you can trust. You can try to do it all by yourself, but you're going to run into issues and you're going to run into roadblocks and you're going to run into a lot of stuff. Because the way they do business in China, you still have to have someone that's Chinese that knows someone.
Okay.
Maybe they know someone in the government, or they know someone in this government office, or they know someone in the business office, or they have connections. And how they get these connections is by giving gifts.
Okay.
We call them hongbao. Hongbao means red envelope. You give them a little gift of money inside and say, hey, can you speed up my application for my business? Or you go, hey, can you approve this inspection? Things like that. You need to have some connections.
All right. How easy or difficult was it to find reliable and trustworthy Chinese partners?
It took some time. It took some time because Chinese people don't trust you instantly.
Right, especially if you're outsider or foreigner.
They don't trust other Chinese instantly. So for sure, they're not going to trust you instantly. Okay. What I did is because when I was teaching, I taught a lot of people's children.
Okay.
I taught their children, be it primary school, middle school, high school, whatever. I taught their children, and education is very important in China.
Right.
And they put a lot of value on teachers in China because they're the ones that are educating their children.
Okay.
So what I did is the parents will thank you. You did their kid can sing a song in English now. They're so grateful they'll give you a gift, or they'll take you to dinner, or they'll invite you to their home. You know, this kind of things. So I found out that a lot of my kids' parents were business people,
Okay.
own factories, own companies, own this. So I made friends with the parents of the children that I taught.
All right. Okay. All right. So then through the parents, you were able to find reliable connections in the business world also.
Right, because they trusted me with their kids. And if they thought I did really well with their kids, they trust me.
Okay.
Look, takes care of my kid. My kid is improving. I trust her. And then you get closer to them until you form some relationship. And usually they'll ask you, hey, do you want to do, my first business was international trade, finding things in in China to send to America. That didn't work out very well
Why?
because it's hard to find people in America that want to buy stuff. You can't sell one by one by one. You need to sell bulk if you're going to trade.
So the first business that you had was international trade. Um,
Mhm.
how long did you do that business?
I did it for 2 years, and then I decided to do a switch.
Okay, switching to.
I changed from international trade to trade in China. So
Okay,
what I did was hook up with suppliers that wanted to do international trade. I told them I can sell to other foreigners in China.
okay,
That was easier.
okay.
Then, and then I did retail instead of wholesale, because there's people all over China that can't get stuff, can't get clothes in their size, can't get, different things they want, hair products or hair or whatever. They couldn't find it. So I used their platform, WeChat,
Okay.
and sold to my own people, sold to foreigners, sold to Americans, and it spread very big. And by mouth, they will say, "Oh, if you want something, contact Joe," like that.
So with the internal trade selling to foreigners, how long were you involved with that business?
Oh, I did that for about 6 years.
What was your second business?
Well, first I opened an English school with another Chinese person. Um, but she wasn't a very good partner. She wasn't good at running a business. She didn't know anything about running a business. And so I was doing it all by myself, but she was getting the lion's share of the profit. So I told her that we can't do this because I'm doing all the work, you're getting all the money. That doesn't work for me. So then she said, okay. And then so we dissolved that business. But while I was doing that business, I had another friend that owned a bar, a Chinese friend who owned a very large bar. And first they asked me, could I come and work at their bar? Because they wanted to draw in foreigners to come to their bar. They had live music, they had foreign food, they wanted people to come. And by this time, I knew a lot of people
Okay.
from doing business and everything. I just knew a lot of people. And so I said, sure, why not? They offered me a salary to come work there. And I was just at that time, I was just the entertainment manager.
Okay.
Okay. Then there was some switching of ownership. The owner of the bar wanted to sell the bar. He wanted to get out of the business. But the cost of the bar was a lot. So they had already 3 Chinese people that were going to invest and take over, but they needed a 4th person because it was a lot of money because it's a huge bar. And the 3 people didn't know anything about running a bar.
Okay.
They just wanted to own a bar. They didn't know how to run one or anything like that. They just wanted to put their money in the bar and make money.
Okay.
And so then they asked me, because I was already working there, how would I feel about becoming one of their partners? And I thought, I don't know. I don't
So
know about being a partner. But then I agreed and
with,
was the face of the bar.
with that particular business, did you have any prior experience running a bar or anything like that?
Actually, I did. In America, when I was in my other life, I used to run a Latin bar.
Oh,
Um, on the weekends in Missouri. They had, it's kind of like a Latin night, but I took the bar on the weekends and charged the commission and charged a door, and I just handled everything in the bar. And they like, it was kind of a rent out the space for you on that night, but I had the Friday night and Saturday night,
okay.
which were the big nights. So but I had to take care of everything myself and only pay the rent to the bar owner. Does that make sense? It was kind of like a sublease.
So running a bar in China, how long did you do that?
I did it until COVID.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think that's what you're gonna say next is like COVID disrupted and turned the whole world upside down on its head. Uh,
Mhm.
can you be a little bit more specific? How did COVID affect you exactly living there? So I guess were you still in Hangzhou at this time or?
Oh no, I had already moved to Wuxi, which is about um, an hour by fast train to Shanghai.
Okay.
because I had opened the school in Wuxi.
Okay.
So I was already in that city. Um,
How did
yeah,
it affect
as you all know, COVID hit China first because, it's where it started. Um, and I was there when it happened. So that first 3 months, we were all in lockdown. We were all locked in our homes. We could not go out. We could get food delivered at the gate once a week. Uh, we had to scan, and it was a lot of stuff we have to do. And so if you can't go out and everybody's locked in their home, of course you can't open a bar.
right?
It's impossible. Um, but we still had to pay the rent for the bar.
Okay, right.
So paying the rent for a bar that you can't open,
Yeah, you won't have any
it's
customers.
yeah. So it was a lot of money. And when we finally could open, which was like 5 months later,
Okay.
by that time we were so far in the hole for paying rent for 5 months, there was no way we could make enough money to cover what we'd already lost.
Okay. All right. So you just decided to cut your losses and close the bar down.
Mm, we decided to do that, but before we did that, I tried to renew my visa. To live in China, you have to have a visa. And
Yeah.
to do business in China, you have to have a business visa or a working visa. And when I went to renew my visa, at that time, China had decided that a bar was not a necessity.
Okay, so they wouldn't allow you to renew your visa.
No. So they just told me you have to leave.
So you have to get out of China right now.
Yes,
How
right now.
did they give you to leave the country?
They said you had to leave. They don't care. They just say you have to leave.
Upon hearing that, upon getting that notice, how far after that did you actually leave?
Well, at first I had to find some place to go
Okay.
because at that time plane plane tickets to America were like $5,000
Yeah.
one way. I mean, it was incredible how expensive. And they only ran like one time
Yeah.
a week or something like that. It was crazy. And so I said, I can't go back home. I don't have enough money for plane tickets. And then when I get home, what am I going to do? I've lived in China for 16 years.
Okay.
I
Oh,
don't have anything there anymore. Just my kids, but I don't want to go and live with my kids. So I looked around what other Asian country is near that's open. So I was going to go to the Philippines
okay. So
because the
just
Philippines speak English.
thinking at that very moment when you knew you were going to leave China, you probably knew you weren't going to come back. Looking over the whole 16-year experience, what did you learn about living and working and doing business in mainland China?
I learned a lot actually. I learned a lot about making connections. I learned a lot about um, tolerance, patience. I learned a lot about whatever, not everybody is your friend.
Okay.
I learned a lot about how to manage things because, Chinese people do business different than we do business in America. So I had a totally different outlook of how businesses should be run. And then when I see how Chinese people do business, it was totally different. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot how Asian people do business. And it's different. They use a lot of connections, a lot of meetings, a lot of who you know and who you don't know you need to know if you want to do this. It's very, very complicated.
Okay. All right. So upon leaving China, I think your final decision was to go to Thailand. Is that right?
That's right, because there was no other country open.
Okay.
That was the only country that was accepting people.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you went to Thailand. Before you went there, did you have a plan? Did you know anyone? Did you kind of map out? No, flew by the seat of your pants.
Yep. It
I
was, I gotta leave China. It's the only place open. Guess this is where I'm going.
Okay. All right.
And I had to extend my visa a little bit with the humanitarian visa,
Mhm.
which they only give you 2 more weeks.
Okay, so you had about 2 weeks to plan your next step, your next move.
Well, it wasn't really the plan because they wanted you to leave right away, but I had to like apply for at that time to go to Thailand, you need to apply online and you need to get a COVID insurance. You needed to get a, a it's like a pass, transportation pass to get into there. And you had to schedule your quarantine, and then you had to find your quarantine hotel, and all these things you had to do before you can even get into Thailand.
Okay, so now you don't need quarantine, you don't need all those other extra steps.
You don't need anything.
Okay, interesting. All right. Okay, so how long have you been in Thailand up to now?
I've been in Thailand a year.
All right. And
I did leave a couple times.
okay, what kind of work or business are you doing now in Thailand?
Right now, first of all, in Thailand, you can legally retire in Thailand at age 50.
50. Okay.
So you can get a retirement visa at age 50. They also have nomad visas, which are visas for people who work online.
Okay.
So if you have, let's say, this Black Asian magazine, if you do this as your business, you could come to Thailand and that is your business. You can get a visa to do that business.
Nomad visa.
Okay.
Okay. Like digital nomads.
Yes, like digital nomads, like people who are TikTokers or YouTubers or these kind of people. You can get that kind of visa.
Okay. All right. Okay. And do you want to share with us the kind of work you're doing at the moment or
Right now, I am setting up my interior design business.
okay.
While I was uh, during COVID,
Mhm.
have nothing to do in COVID. So what I did is I went online and I took classes.
Okay.
I did it, one, because I like interior design, and two, I was planning ahead. What am I gonna do after this? And I had already been familiar with interior decorating, interior design, and I do a little art on the side. So I said, let me take these classes online, gives me something to do, and I can get my degree in interior design. So that's what I did during COVID. Instead of sitting and doing nothing or watching TikTok or doing this, I studied online.
Okay. All right. Um looking ahead to the future, do you have any idea how long you plan to be in Thailand and what kind of work you plan to do while you're there?
Actually, I financially don't have to work at all,
Okay. Very good.
but I choose to work because I don't want to sit and do nothing. So I have already purchased my retirement home here, and I've already settled here. I have opened my business. I'm going to be it's my business, so it's going to be part-time. Like I'm going to be semi-retired because I am over 50.
Okay.
So I can do what I want. So I chose to do part-time in my free time to do interior design and interior decorating. And another time, nothing.
Okay.
Because I worked hard enough. I worked hard enough that I don't have to work now.
What wisdom would you share with people who want to move to Asia from your 16 years of living and working and doing business here?
What I suggest you to do is do your research. Do your research, get as much education as you possibly can, save as much money as you possibly can. You may not need it, but it's good to have it. And don't expect places in Asia to be like America. It's not gonna be. They're not gonna change their country for you. You need to change yourself for their country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Black Asian Magazine.